All right, now you've talked a lot about some of your previous accomplishments, but for this election, do you have a short to-do list when you are elected?
To keep on with our success in expanding the senior meals program funding. Those folks in those nutrition centers across the state do such a great job and are really everyday heroes. And so I want to keep getting them more resources to stretch even further. I want to expand the number of Missourians taking advantage of the Missouri RX plan success that I've talked about to over 200,000. We're at 182,000 plus now. We can do more as I continue to evangelize and work on that program. I want to keep the Tour of Missouri going. We have one more year on our 3-year contract for a 2009 race. We've got an outside shot at getting Lance Armstrong here for the race next year. He came out of retirement, or has announced to the world that he's coming out of retirement. And we've got some folks in our wonderful state who know him and are working on getting him here for our 2009 race. Then I want to keep on working with my friends in the Missouri General Assembly, the House and Senate, to move progressive legislation, increase higher education funding, increase scholarships.
All right, as Lieutenant Governor, it's your job in the Senate to cast if there is a tie, to cast the deciding vote. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the issues that may be important to Missourians in this election. One of those is health care. How would you work, or how do you plan on working to bring health care to more Missourians?
Well, first of all, I'm very excited about innovations in health care that take a Medicaid system that was not working that well before and whose costs were spiraling out of control, and trying to redirect resources to where we know that they're best used and most needed. And that involves a fundamental redirection of the Medicaid system toward health, wellness, and preventive health care. So that's number one. We want to put the patient in charge. We want to put the families in charge. And we can do that through healthcare innovation and Medicaid reform. We have reformed Medicaid, and we're still, after the reforms, adding close to $250 million a year to a program that's around $6 billion and climbing now. So it's a huge cost item in the state budget. I want to move toward wellness, healthcare, prevention, preventive healthcare, and having patients and families and individuals take responsibility for their own health care. Under the old failed system, the administration was not even checking eligibility. That meant we had tens of thousands of people on the rolls who were not entitled to be on the rolls and who were committing fraud. We've eliminated that in an effort to redirect resources back to those who need the health care.
All right, and with the economy, and we've seen over the last couple of weeks, it's been a huge national issue. But how do you bring economic growth as Lieutenant Governor to Missouri?
Well, we keep taxes low. We resist my opponent's demand for higher taxes. We work to improve regulation in state government so that it's not onerous on businesses to locate here. We maintain our business climate improvements that we passed in 2005 that have helped the business climate. That is the passage of tort reform and workers' comp reform in our state. And we just got to keep going on that path, because it has made Missouri #1 in the nation in a recent national study for the manufacturing climate. Everybody's concerned about manufacturing jobs. We've actually taken steps that help ensure that Missouri is a good place to invest for manufacture, a good place to expand if you're already here, and a good place to come and invest if you're not already here.
You mentioned tort reform and workers' comp reform. How does that help businesses?
Well, it helps them with their costs. And in the case of tort reform, it helps also with the medical malpractice crisis we had until a couple of years ago. We had doctors leaving this state, and it was almost impossible to recruit successfully highly qualified subspecialties, specialties, and specialists, and highly advanced surgeons to our state. It was very difficult because of the medical malpractice liability climate. We passed tort reform in the first 2 months, 3 months of 2005, and medical malpractice got better for doctors, and now you can recruit neurosurgeons and other highly skilled practitioners to our state. How does it help businesses? It lowers their insurance costs. Every business that employs more than 5 people in our state, which is most of them, every business of that size or greater has to pay workers' comp insurance costs. When you're not competitive on workers' comp costs, you have a problem. And we improved that situation, and Missouri's business climate and climate for jobs and investment is much better as a result.
You talked a little bit ago about how taxes was one of the issues where you disagree with your opponent. Can you give some more examples maybe of where you and your opponent disagree on what to do with?
Yes, my opponent voted as recently as this spring for higher sales tax in Missouri. I say our taxes are high enough, and that we in state government have to have the discipline to find for good causes out of general revenue currently existing and not raise taxes. And raising taxes is a recipe for growing government and adding state employees at a time when that is not needed, and you don't do that on a soft economy. But that's been my opponent's prescription, and he's wrong to advocate for that.
All right, I want to ask you about now the job as lieutenant governor. How would you be able to, or how will you be able to work with either one of the candidates, whether it's Jay Nixon, who's not in your party
Right.
and is a Democrat, or Kenny Holsoff?
Good question, and one I'm pleased to address. And Missouri voters have shown a tendency in the last 32 years since I was in college to be discriminating, to elect not infrequently a governor of one party and a lieutenant governor of another. We'll see what happens. Obviously, if, as I hope and expect, Kenny Holsoff is elected governor, he and I will work fine. He's a longtime friend of more than 25 years, and I've known his family before that. However, if Mr. Nixon is elected and I'm elected, my whole career demonstrates a propensity and a commitment to work together after the elections are over for bipartisan solutions. Example, when I became the first Republican to head either legislative chamber in Jefferson City in 53 years in the winter of 2001, I had Governor Bob Holden of the other party, and I had a Republican majority in the Senate by only one seat, and I had a Democrat majority by a much bigger margin in the House. My view is this: when it's campaign season, you campaign hard, you put your chin strap on, and you come to play, and you play hard. And when the elections are over, that people expect us to work together, and that's been my whole history. We work together, and Bob Holden once called me a statesman. It was after he had left office. It was in 2005 or 2006, but it was at a dinner in St. Louis where 350 people heard it, and that's because we work together to do what's right for the people of Missouri. Specific example, we passed prescription drug assistance for the elderly, for the low-income seniors in our state in that first year, when the Democrats had a majority in the House, the Democrats had the governor's mansion, and I had a one-seat majority in the Senate.